Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Robert Redmond. I'm head of AI ad product design at IBM Watson Advertising, and I'm joined here today by a couple of guests to have a conversation about things that are shifting and changing in how we do business in the advertising industry. A little while ago, we heard from Jeremy around this concept of the challenges and the disruptions that we're facing in our industry. And he framed it in a way that allowed us to think about those challenges as opportunities, as ways for us to transform how we do business and be more effective in our relationships with our consumers, as well as make more effective decisions in how we reach those consumers. But it's making choices that really transitions us into this new world. And these choices are going to be big, right? That's why we have this metaphorical sort of fork in the road. Choices abound as well, right? We're faced with a lot of different scenarios that we have to put time and consideration towards. The screen here is just a sampling of some of the choices that you may be being faced with on a daily basis. I think that the purpose or profit is a really interesting thing that we've all been looking at over the course of the past year. Is it data, or is it creativity, or is it a really, really good alignment between the two that drives us forward? And these choices that we have to make are going to be impactful on the outcomes that we drive through the course of the relationships that we cultivate over the next year to 5 years as this industry transforms with technology. These choices are going to feel really impactful, right? Because of what is happening within them. We have this ability to choose the type of data that we're going to consume and how we're going to use it to be able to really unlock insights from that data and go deeper than we ever have before. In addition to that, we have to prioritize trust in our consumer relationships to make sure that we're not just respecting privacy, but also acting ethically and balancing those in ways that enrich our relationships. And then finally, we really want to lean into the next generation of technology to help us do this. Why? Because data is getting bigger. The speed at which we communicate and engage is getting faster. And all these things require us to both learn and implement how to put technology to work at the core of that to essentially augment our ability to do these things at scale. The good news is we can make right choices for our business, and we can emerge from this strange and transformative period with these new opportunities in play. So today, our panel members have made some of these choices and are actively employing these choices across their ecosystems and how they engage consumers. We'll hear a little bit more about that in a few moments, but first, let me introduce our two guests. So I'm going to spend a moment just asking them to give us a little insight into what their day-to-day is like. So Anudit, as Chief Product Officer at MediaMath, you have a lot in front of you. Can you tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like and where you focus?
Absolutely, and hi, Robert. Thank you for having me here. My day-to-day is an interesting life as running product for a company. It's about keeping things going, making sure that we are doing right by our customers and providing them what they need, but at the same time keeping an eye on the future. And as you mentioned it in the introduction a second ago, and I'm sure everybody on this who's watching this agrees that the future is extremely dynamic at this time. And so my day-to-day for the most part is spent on making sure that we are setting ourselves up today for being ready for the future as it comes to us tomorrow.
Great. And Vivian, welcome. Thank you for joining us as well. So leading DTC for Clorox, what does your day-to-day look like, and how do you lean in to some of these challenges?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to chat with you today. So it's a bit of an interesting place where myself and our group, D2C, sits within a legacy CPG company like Clorox. We're essentially trying to build the capability in-house of having that direct-to-consumer relationship for a brand that has always relied on retailers and third-party selling channels. And so it is everything that comes under the normal D2C playbook of performance marketing to acquire customers, ongoing retention, loyalty, advocacy. And so We're doing that on a couple of brands that are e-commerce only. We call those our pure play brands, but primarily we're doing this for brands like Burt's Bees, Brita Water Filters, a whole bunch of supplements brands like Renew Life Probiotics, Rainbow Light, brands that have a omni-channel selling process, selling channels, in that you can walk into Whole Foods or a Costco, you'll find these products. You might shop and buy them on Amazon. And now we're trying to say you can also buy it directly on the brand.com site. And so my role looking at growth is figuring out how all of that works together from data. How are we leveraging the broader ecosystem of Clorox as a CPG company brings to the table? And then how can we really help them advance in driving that first party data relationship with consumers?
Thank you, and welcome both of you. Thanks for joining me. So to sort of lean off of that, Vivian, you're focusing on a lot, but we're also charting a course forward, right? We're deep into planning for 2022, probably already making a ton of decisions, as we should be doing. What are some of the choices that you're focusing on across your teams as you look into next year, leaning back into those choices we had on screen?
For us, it's very much about strengthening that first party data relationship. I think over the last 18 months, we've seen consumer behavior shift into more comfortable with buying online, pick up in store, and all of those types of solutions. And so we're trying to say, how do we stay ahead of that and make it not just a transactional relationship, but how do we offer content that's useful? And then how do we also then make it really convenient for consumers when they are ready to shop?
Sure. So we've actually had some pretty interesting releases, some really big releases that came out in Q4, just a week or so ago. And next year is going to be about ensuring that those releases stick and we can kind of provide all the value that we want to our customers. In addition to that, there are many moving pieces at this point in time. We know that we got kind of a 12 to 18 month reprieve with the third-party cookie going away. So there is a whole lot of focus around some of the work that has to be completed, if you will, to ensure that we are ready for the world where the third-party cookie is no longer there. But honestly, the thing that if I have to count the one thing that we know we want to do something really, really big with, it is around measurement in this new world of identity. Right? We know that it's going to change. We don't know exactly what all those changes are going to be. With what Apple has done with iOS 14, we know a bunch of things are like moving around. There is so much of chaos all around in that area. And so we have a lot of focus on ensuring that our platform, the newly redesigned platform that is providing so much value to the customers, continues to provide value when the world around us, as far as identity, measurement, reporting and so on, those change the way we know they are going to, but we don't know exactly how they're going to.
Right. I think it's a really interesting time to sort of lean into those. And you said something there about value. Agree that value is being redefined for a lot of us as well. And some of the things that we're seeing sort of transform that meaning of value have meant a lot of us have been focusing in different spaces. For us, it's really looking at the data component and how we can bring AI and probabilistic understanding to the marketplace, because deterministic is becoming a little bit of a gray space dependent upon the avenue you take. So exciting times. And in these times, the past 2 years, right, we've had this major disruption to the landscape. You both mentioned that with what's happening with cookies. We've gotten a little bit of a reprieve though, right? Originally, we were looking at that like kind of happening already in the midst of it, but we've pushed that out a bit so that we can get things right. When thinking about that, how has that shifted or changed your tactics or your approach to this transformation that we're going through? Maybe Anudit, we'll start with you and then transition to Vivian as well.
Absolutely. And we were kind of ready. We knew that we expected this to happen in the early part of 2022. So we were ready for it. We spent a lot of time educating the market and the customers on what the world could look like and allowing them to test our systems where, you could use that first party identifier. Because the whole market wasn't necessarily as ready, it was a little bit difficult to actually get a lot of things moving. But here's the beauty of what is now possible for us, right? We have the systems in place to allow you to transact on first party. But because we have still another 12 to 15 months of the third-party cookie, you can actually run your campaigns using your first-party identity, where you know you might not get as much scale, but then use the third-party cookie to get the scale so you can actually reach all the customers you want. Check the modeling on the first party so you know what you can actually do. And that way you pretty much have a nice little lab situation, if you will, which you can use for the next 12 months, like refining your tactics and so on. So we have a playbook that we work with our customers on. We are showing them how you can use first party data or contextual data or aggregated data, as the case may be, for running your campaigns and for getting the outcome. But when you know that you need to reach those eyeballs, absolutely, just keep deferring to the third-party cookie for a little while. So I think
Sure.
It's a great opportunity for us to do everything right going forward.
It's like we got the chance to test when we didn't think we would. Vivian, how's that looking for you as a D2C brand, right? Like you're in the space of reaching consumers quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, I'd say on the media side, we are relying on a lot of these ad partners and ad tech partners to do what Anuta just said, using our first party data as much as possible, but then also trying to get scale and then trying to glean audience insights so that we get better understanding of our audience over time. At the same time, we are diversifying into, call it less one-to-one, less precise media. So we're kind of moving up funnel into things like DRTV, podcasts and so forth, because they are also able to offer us that scale without so much reliance on that data piece and the cookies. And so it's the combination of the two. And then I think especially top of mind for us as a brand is a big push to say, how do we make sure that we're offering content and information that is compelling for a consumer to want to have a relationship with us? I think brands are starting to have to be a little bit like a publisher in that you have to offer something in exchange, because we're losing some of these kind of push tactics that we actually have to make sure that consumers will want to continue to come back to us as a brand.
Right. I think that's a really interesting perspective, right? That push becomes pull, and the pull needs to be really engaging and empowering. So advanced technologies are playing a role in this transformation as well, and we've all kind of talked briefly about them. I think this opportunity to continue educating not just our brand partners as ad tech, but also our consumers about what it is they're engaging with is huge as well. Vivian, can you speak to how your organization, how Clorox is leveraging advanced tech like AI now, and how you leaned into it during this disruption?
Yeah, there's a couple of different use cases. I'd say some of the more interesting is actually working with IBM Watson on some of the kind of smart chat features, especially as we were going through periods of supply chain disruptions and consumers having a lot of problems finding our product, being able to address that head on in a way that at least feels a little bit more personal than just a generic message that's put out there. And then in other cases, it's more about refining our targeting and how do we leverage data science and kind of the technology that a lot of our partners are building, and leaning into providing the data to be able to leverage and maximize those.
Nice, right. And Watson Conversations, the experience that we got to create with the Clorox team was a really interesting experience. I think that idea of, especially when thinking about first party data, of one-to-one conversations giving us an opportunity to really understand the consumer that we're talking to can be really powerful tools to help drive future planning. On the other end of the spectrum, Anuta, Media Math, obviously you're embracing AI and advanced technology, but you have a different perspective here, right? How are you sort of taking that and turning towards partnering while also looking at the open web as a huge opportunity for those of us in the space?
Yeah, great question. I mean, and AI in a lot of ways is very core to a bunch of things we do, because when you think about it, our single biggest mission, if you will, is to figure out how to drive the most effective KPIs for our customers, give them the best return on investment on their ad spend, if you will. And that comes by taking in a multitude of data points and then allowing us to have a system, a model, a methodology by which we can translate those data points into what would actually make sense for an ad buyer at that point in time. We have a technology that we call the brain, and the brain, basically the Media Ad brain, decides what is the right value for an ad based on the user who's seeing it, the time of day, the location, what the user has done in the past, et cetera, et cetera. And that, as you can imagine, a lot of that is driven by some really, really deep tech. We've taken this and we've kind of made sure that we can partner with folks so that this brain can be utilized either inside our own systems, or we created something called the custom bid router, where you can actually take a portion of this brain, set it within your systems, and then use your own data. You bring your own algorithm, if you will, BYOA, like the BYOB stuff, and use your intelligence to do what you want. Or we have something that we call shared brain. So you know that you are an organization that is running multiple different kinds of campaigns. Clorox, as an example, would run different campaigns depending on the kind of brand that they are running for. But they all kind of have a similar end goal. They share some information with each other, but not all. So instead of having a brain that has to learn independently every time something new happens, you can have a base brain and then a shared brain coming out of it. So a lot of that goes towards artificial intelligence, machine learning, and these high tech, if you will, that allows us to drive value for our customers.
I think that's great. And I know that you're in partnership mode as well, and that partnerships have been a great way to find value in data. We've recently announced an expanded partnership between MediaMath and IBM Watson Advertising. We're bringing weather targeting to the platform to make it directly available. Can you just briefly share anything that you see value that could drive for clients?
Oh, absolutely. And this is something that we are very, very excited about. I mean, MediaMath and IBM have had a long-standing relationship on various things that we work together, and weather is just one of the many, but a really exciting one because we spoke about the cookie going away, we spoke about privacy and regulations and first-party data becoming a little bit of a gray area. Weather is real, actionable data that is very privacy-friendly, and we know that we can do things with it, drive value, bring more transparency into our supply chain, working with IBM, ensuring that we can use signals that IBM is able to provide via the weather modules and weather models, and then help drive outcomes for our customers in the way that we know they deserve to get the outcome, and we believe that we can provide it for them.
That's great. And we're very excited about the partnership as well. And I think speaking on data, we'll touch on data, and then I'll kind of close us out with a couple of quick turn questions. But Vivian, you're in this interesting vantage point from a DCT marketing and growth for Clorox, which is more traditionally kind of thought of as a CPG. How are you bringing those worlds together, and how do you think data is supporting that effort and growth?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many conversations I have within Clorox that really says data is foundational to how D2C works, right? If you take apart the pieces, we have marketing, we have creative, we have product, you can find those in a lot of companies. But what makes it special is that we work together with grounded in data. So testing, experimentation, understanding the audience. I think it's kind of this balance of, yes, the analytical side, the measurement, then you talked about being really precise about what we do with cookies, but it's also really keeping consumer experience really front and center. And that's everything from the creative and the messaging that we put out there to the pricing promotion strategy in relation to what a consumer might see on Amazon and retail stores and competitors. And it's really kind of balancing all of those pieces that makes it work. And I think that's what's interesting to Clorox is that they understand it can't just be pushing messages out there and leaving consumers to go kind of figure it out on their own. Consumers are demanding a relationship with the brands, willing to engage through social media and other channels in two-way conversation. And then they ultimately want convenience when it comes to the purchase piece. And so we're trying to tie all of that together across the different brands of Clorox.
I think it's an exciting time for data and technology to come together. We've got a few seconds left. I'm going to hit you both very quickly with two quick questions, one or two word answer. What's the most interesting change in the advertising industry that you're excited about today? Anudit.
If you ask for transparency, Jedi Blue.
Vivian.
The role of creative in building relationships.
Nice. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me today and having this conversation. Greatly appreciate it.